Hey there, everyone. Rich here, and we're back at our drone video editing for beginners. This is installment number 3. So in the first 2 installments, we got our library set up. We got some images, video imported. We played around with the timeline a little bit, and we've got something coming together that could be a nice little presentation project for our clients. Now, one of the things here, I'm going to add in a couple of more video clips. I'm just shrinking this down for us right now so that I can go back in. So number one, you can import directly from Final Cut, or number two, you can drag things onto the timeline, of course. And I'm thinking right here that this video is probably the video I'm looking for. Yes, it is. As I said early on in the first installment of this series, I use a video management tool called Kino, and it helps me organize all my video and get my video into Final Cut Pro quickly and easily. Now, we're not showing you that one right now because it is a higher end topic and could serve to confuse you more than anything else. All right, so right now, what I'd like to do, I'm going to grab that top panel one, and I'm just going to drag it into the timeline on Final Cut. We're going to go ahead and close that. And let's see here. Let's open that all the way out. So now I've got this video that fits, we had the timeline where we had a title. What can we do here to move this one along? Well, all I have to do is drag it in front of that other title. There we go. And now in this one, I can scrub through because I don't want the majority of this. We just want to get up to where they're actually lifting one of the concrete panels for the roof of this tank. So here we go, right about here. I'm going to hit B for the blade key once again, and I'm going to click that left area, and we're going to get rid of that. So now let's take a look here at where we're set up. So we can see right in here that the panel is coming up. The guys are working on that, and they're just getting it up into the air. We probably don't want to show this whole thing because it's going to get long and boring really quick. So what we could do right about here, let's go ahead and hit the blade key. And now I'm hitting the A key again for the select tool. And let's just move through this. See, once it starts getting raised, so they're working with it. The crane's not pulling it up quite yet, but there we go. Gonna grab that B key for blade again and the A key to select. And now we've got it just starting, now lifting off into the air. Let's see. And as you can see, I got a gimbal tilt in there that was a little painful. So we can clip that right out right there. So let's get rid of that part. So there we go. All right. Panel is halfway up in the air. Let's continue up because I know that the drone is going to be moved momentarily because I'm the guy who was operating the drone at the time. There we go. We've got the panel up there, so I'm going to hit that blade key again. And let's see what we've got here. We've got the panel just starting, the panel lifting off, the panel up in the air coming to the construction workers. We're going to stop that one right there. And I'm thinking maybe this is good enough. Yeah, I'm going to stop with this one right here. We're getting a little repetitive, and you can see that. By the way, when these disappear, it's just me hitting the delete key. All right. So now we've got a little more action of those panels getting up, and that was the really important thing that they wanted to see here. By the way, we've got some new video in here, right? So I am going to select these three. I held the shift key and clicked, and I'm going to put stabilization onto that too, because the drone did waver here and there. So that stabilization does actually help out with it. I've had people ask about that previously, how my stuff is smoother, and that's one part of it, but there's several other editing techniques as well. Right now, it is transcoding and rendering again. We can see the little dots right in here, and that we're not going to be bothered by that at all. So here we go. We've got all this. What else can we now do with this project? Well, we still have a lot of things. So if you wanted to do some additional basic titling at this point, if you said, okay, I've got some of my flight in here, I'm showing some of the things going on the construction site. What's my next step for communicating with the audience? Well, that's where some of these titles can come in once again. So if we go up to titles, I've highlighted titles, and maybe I'd like to use a simple lower thirds title. So this is another pack that I bought from a vendor, but there are a lot of titles that come with Final Cut right out of the box, so you don't have to run out and buy these right away. But let's see here. I'm going to use a smaller title here. We can drag that onto the timeline. So now, ooh, exciting, dragging things onto the timeline. And here we are with this particular title. We can type into that Leno area. And also, let's just get our bar back here. We can also move it around. See that little circle? We can make it bigger or smaller. But let's just say DN tanks and Prescott build. Now, when I clicked on the title, okay, this is an animated title. I want you to check over on the right-hand side. So we have that title currently highlighted. If we look over in here, we have a new button. So now we've got this T button, then we've got our paragraph and text itself. We've got our clip information. We've got our color grading information and the overall information about the clip. But if I click on that T key, this is for what I've got highlighted, and what I've got highlighted is the title. So right now we could invert this on or off. It moved it to the other side. I'm going to put it back. We can change the colors of that slide out. We can change how wide the background is. Look on the main screen and see how I'm changing that. So maybe it goes that far. We can make the background higher or not. And background opacity, so we could drop that out. So see how it goes away from that black right there. But we now have a title above our video. And there are a lot of additional tools in here, as you'll see. So just for that title, we've got our colors, our background colors, opacity, line color, line width, our fonts that we're using, standard, regular, bold, so we can pick different fonts. Here is the text for Prescott Build. Here is the text for DN Tanks. This is one example of what could be hundreds of examples. There are so many companies out there offering different title packs and things. They all work very similarly. So if you're looking for some specific styles of title packs, you'll probably be able to find them. All right. So that's exciting stuff right there. So here's our first title. We have options for many, many other titles, as I was saying. And let's see here. Let's get off of this one really quickly. And let's go look and see what other titles are available to us. So with one of the companies that I purchased titles from, they have a ton of title options and some cool stuff too. Want to drop an arrow in and point it at one of the tanks? You can do that. Let's see. How do we do that? Let me get that right there. And let's get over it. All right, there is our arrow that comes together. And so it's moving as the camera is moving as well. So maybe putting the putting that on there is not perfection. By the way, so I've got this arrow. Let's say we wanted to use this arrow, but how do I manipulate it or do anything with it? Well, over on the right-hand side now, we have something different going on under that T tool. Remember we had more parameters before with that title? We've got less parameters here. Let's make this, we all love big red arrows. Big red arrows tell you to look at something. So there we go. We've got a big red arrow in here and we can scale it bigger, smaller. Oh, look at that. Maybe I'll have that big red arrow pointing in the middle there. And then we can do a rotation. Look at that. So almost three-dimensional feeling, right? And then how about our Y rotation? We could have it doing that right there. And the Z rotation. So maybe we want to point out that crane right there. Now, when we look at this, unfortunately, the arrow is moving. I would like the arrow to actually be staying steady, but maybe this arrow is telling us going from tank number 1 to tank number 2. You'll also see that dropped off as well. So maybe we'll slide this over a little more. There we go. So that's looking good to me, and we can move these around. The other thing that we can also do right here we have our transform, crop, and distort. I could select transform for this as well. And maybe I want to move this arrow over, and maybe I want to shrink this down overall. So at the moment, I'm using the transform tool to do that. Very cool. So I'm going to have that transform tool right there. And also on the upper area, we now have the word done for when we're finished doing that transformation. Also, something else that is new and does not belong in the beginner's class, but I'm going to hint to it right now for you, is the fact that motion tracking has been added to Final Cut Pro. So Apple has their own motion tracking solution now. I have been using other motion trackers over the years, and if you'd like, put a comment down in the notes below to talk about motion tracking in Final Cut, and we'll see if we can fit that in to our beginner's guide here. All right, I'm going to click on done here. So now we've got this red arrow going on. So let's see what's happening with the whole thing. Oh, there's where that arrow faded in. Maybe it's moving along telling us that's the crane, because that is the crane. By the way, just so you know, that crane was authorized by the FAA to be up to 270 feet above ground level. I thought that was kind of cool. Now that text, or not the text, but the arrow here dropped out. It's kind of ugly. I don't like that. So what I'm going to do is go over to my transitions again, and I'm going to select cross dissolve, and I'm going to drop cross dissolve right into that arrow tool. Oh, did it get it? Or maybe it dropped off. Let's see here. Doesn't look like it wanted to play friendly with that one right now. Maybe it's the type that I used. But what we could do here, nope, still not doing it. Normally, 9 times out of 10, I can drag this on. I might be having an issue with the computer, so I'll revisit that afterward. But I should be able to put a transition at the beginning and at the end of this. And before I forget, since we're looking at all these different titles, I just wanted you to see, not only are there standard titles, you can drop in other items as well, like an iPhone, for instance. And in this iPhone, you could actually drop something else onto the iPhone screen. So now titles are getting kind of really exciting, aren't they? Yes, they are. So when I select this title, we can take a look up here. We can phone scale. So once again, um, this is not a really basic task that we're doing here together at the moment. Sorry about that. I lost my words for a sec. This is getting into an advanced topic, but when we drag something like this on, take a look over here, and we have a background. So if I click this, whoa, now that I click this, this is awesome. Maybe I want a text message on here saying, are you at the tanks? Yes, I'm at the tanks. And once again, I'm going to click and hold on this. I'm going to click the transform button, and let's move this. Maybe we want the phone right over here. And like I said, maybe the phone has some information from from the crane operator to the supervisor or something. So we could easily drop in video in here or still images in here as well. So the title tools are incredibly powerful, and they're not just your typical title like this. We can do lower thirds titles. We can drop in arrows and other different types of icons, and we can drop in completely different stuff from these titles as well. So with that in mind, now we're getting to putting together a really cool presentation here, aren't we? All right, everybody, we're going to wrap this one up here. And on the next one, we're going to continue forward with our little project. And we're going to add a couple of additional pieces into it before we export this final product for viewing. So tune in for the next one coming up real soon.